One of the absolute strengths of Fire Emblem Engage is the sheer depth and breadth of your build crafting capabilities when it comes to how you want to customize your characters. Thus far, we've already done 2 episodes discussing builds that I'm doing in my Maddening run, and today we're going to be doing another one. In this episode, we're doing 3 builds, one for Rosado, one for Yunaka, and one for Zelkov. Let's begin. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. If you enjoy my content, find it fun, entertaining, educational, anything like that, please subscribe and consider leaving a like. Small-time YouTuber, making YouTube my full-time career, and I need all the help that I can get to continue to grow, so thank you. 2 of our 3 builds today, I would say fit the moniker of weird, while the third, our Yunaka build, is actually more discussing a build that I had outlined earlier on during my time with Engage, that now that I've got my hands on it in Maddening, I want to go back and discuss how it's doing. It's a very standard Yunaka build, but it's my first time using it in Maddening, so I think it's good to discuss it. We'll do that last. We're going to be starting off today with Rosado here. Now, Rosado is a character that I know conceptually is quite good, but is not a character that I had really had the opportunity or really the desire to use previously. When I recruited him on hard mode, I had better flying units. I had better units in general. I wasn't super impressed with his base stats. He really didn't have a slot on my team, but in Maddening, he brings some nice stuff to the table. Not as a Wyvern Knight, but as a Swordmaster. This is, of course, the build that we are using, as you can see here, and there's a lot that Rosado has going for him when it comes to Swordmaster. First off, let's talk his growths. For Swordmaster, Rosado's got some nice growth rates. We're looking at 85 HP, so we're very frequently going to be seeing our HP go up. A very solid 55 strength, 55 dex, 65 speed. And then the defensive stats are a little bit lower, 30 defense, 45 res, actually, which is pretty solid for a melee unit, and 35 luck. Now, there are some issues there, but with the way that I've got my build set up, we should be able to patch those up. First thing that I want to call out is that while we do have good strength growth, our base strength, not the best. You can see here we are a level 2 Swordmaster currently. I reclassed straight from Wyvern Knight to Swordmaster, and 14 strength is not really the best. Especially when we're on Maddening and enemies are quite tanky. They have a lot of defense, a lot of HP. But with our growth, we will be able to patch that up. In the interim, we need to do some things to try and help with that. That's where we have this +3 Armor Slayer and this +3 Killing Edge. They're not adding a ton of damage, but it does help. And I do have some other things in mind to try and help with this once we have the capability to get them. For now, Rosado is a pretty solid crit machine. He's getting a lot of crits. This will get better as we continue to upgrade this Killing Edge, but it's not bad. I also have a Silver Sword that I'm planning on upgrading just to have the extra attack, although I could also wait until we get the S-rank sword and upgrade that, as that will give a nice damage boost. And of course, as a Swordmaster, we do have S-rank in swords. I also just got this Brave Sword out of the well, funnily enough. Again, if you don't have a lot of attack, a lot of strength, it's not really the best option because it's really not giving you a bunch of damage. But we've got fairly good speed. We could put an engrave on it that increases damage. There's a possibility there. Now, one of the things that we are doing that helps out, despite the fact that we don't have a ton of strength at the moment, is I have paired Rosado with Erica. Perhaps not unsurprisingly, seeing as how Erica is the character that Rosado comes with, the emblem that Rosado comes with. But as a Swordmaster, she works quite well with him. This gives us access to the Rapier, which is going to, of course, give us effectiveness against Cavalry and Armored. Armored, not as important when we also have an Armor Slayer, but Cavalry, always nice. The Wind Sword is actually something that Rosado's been surprisingly effective with. We can see his magic with the boost from Erica is only slightly lower than his strength, and it's just a nice option to have for helping to pick off random annoying flying units, having a ranged option. It's been more useful than you might expect. Then, of course, I do have Rosado and Erica at Bond 15, so we do have access to the Sieglinde, and this is very, very nice. It's not weighing Rosado down at all. It's got great hit rate, decent enough avoid and dodge, pretty solid damage, all things considered, and it's effective against the Corrupted, which, as we get further into the story, we'll be fighting almost exclusively Corrupted units, so this is going to see more and more use as we go. As far as stat boosts are concerned, from this pairing with Erica, we are getting that +3 to magic, which with the Wind Sword is perfectly nice. I'm happy to have that. +3 to dex, meaning that we are going to be quite accurate between having swords, having extra dexterity, all that type of good stuff. And then a whopping +6 to luck, which is quite nice because, again, our luck growth is not the best here. And as a Swordmaster, we're fairly frail. We want to be able to avoid a lot of attacks on the front lines. Having that extra luck is going to help with that a lot. As far as skills are concerned, we of course have Rosado's personal skill, Stunning Smile. If foe is male, inflicts avoid -20 on that foe during combat. Again, about 50% of the time, that means we're just going to be like much more accurate on the attack, which I'm perfectly fine with, obviously. Being able to hit our targets is quite good. And then I did go ahead and inherit Speed Taker. We're going to be fairly fast as a Swordmaster. However, we want to be able to quad with a Brave weapon or double with any other weapon when we're on a Swordmaster, seeing as how our strength is not the best, so we want to get that extra damage where we can, and enemies in Maddening are quite fast. So I figured, why not? We can put Speed Taker on Rosado, get up to +10 speed over the course of a battle. That'll help a lot. I do think that this is actually very important here. As far as our second skill is going to be concerned, I'm not 100% certain yet. We have a lot of options. We could go for something like Sword Power to just get that raw damage output. We could get Strength for the same reasons. We'll have to see. We're going to get some decent Strength growths, but if we have the speed, we could definitely use more Strength. Right now, I have to wait until I get our other emblems back before I have the full complement of skills to look at. There are certainly options. If you have any particular suggestions what to put in this slot, let me know, because I don't really have anything set in stone in my mind yet, so I'd be happy to hear from you about it. Then, of course, we do have the complement of Erica's skills. We have Night and Day, so we can switch back and forth. Lunar Brace is going to be very, very nice here, seeing as how we're going to be able to deal extra 30% damage based off of the foe's defense. When we don't have a ton of strength, this damage boost is going to be pretty nice. So I'm very happy to have Lunar Brace. Gentility, taking less damage. I mean, when you're a frail Swordmaster, the less damage you take, the better. And then, of course, we do have Twin Strike, which we do a ton of damage with. So, overall, I've been quite happy with this build thus far. I think it's a weird build. I wouldn't consider to change Wyvern Knight to Swordmaster in most cases. I've had a few people say that this might actually be the meta, but I don't really consume other content. I don't really read or watch other stuff, so I don't know what other people consider the meta. I just think it's weird, but it's a lot of fun, and I like Rosado's colors in Swordmaster as well. So overall, this has been a fun build. I highly recommend trying it if you haven't already. Next up, we have Halberdier Zelkov, and this is actually a build that was recommended to me by chat. I have added my own twists on it, of course, but I did get a couple recommendations to switch Zelkov to Halberdier, partially because of the fashion game. Zelkov and his colors, he rocks Halberdier pretty damn well, if I do say so myself. The blacks and grays and golds, it looks pretty sick. And I'm always down for some good fashion game, but functionally, how is this working? Well, let's go over it. First off, let's talk about growths. Not quite as impressive here as Swordmaster Rosado, but still quite functional, and I think will be pretty damn good, especially because Zelkov does have solid bases as well. We're looking at 75 HP, so we're going to be getting plenty of HP as we go. Very important for a frontliner. That vital 50 in strength, so we're getting a point of strength every other level. Quite reliable. 60 dex, we're going to be accurate. 45 speed, not quite at the 50 that we like to see, but we're still going to be getting plenty of speed here. And we do have a couple of things that are going to help with the speed game as well, so not too concerning. 50 defense, so be able to have some decent bulk. 20 res, yeah, I mean, we're a frontliner. And then 30 luck. So not too great on the luck front, but it could be worse. It could be worse. Overall, we have a solid stat spread here, and you can see thus far it's been turning out quite well. Very well balanced and pretty capable of handling itself on the front lines on a pure statistical basis. Now, I am currently pairing Zelkov with Camilla. I may stick with that, but my original idea was to actually switch to Sigurd once we get Sigurd back, and we'll go over both of these emblems and the pros and cons of them as we proceed. However, first, of course, we're going to talk about our items. Right now, I'm leading off with a Killer Lance +4 with a bit of an engraved, increased dodge, crit, all that type of good stuff. This is going to be a slight non-bow, you know, the opposite of a combo, with one of our abilities that we have over there, but it's overall still a solid option. We're not critting all the time, but getting some extra crits is good, and the nice thing is we have the build to wield this without losing any speed. It's overall a fairly powerful lance, and it's kind of just something I threw on Zelkov when I switched him to Halberdier, because I needed good lances to put on him, but it's been working out quite well thus far. Then, of course, we have a spear for ranged attacks. As a backup character, we will always want to have something that will increase our backup range. We always want to have the ability to attack from range if needed in general. Pretty much a no-brainer. Could argue going with a javelin would be better because we wouldn't lose speed, but we need the damage on Maddening, so the spear is what I've chosen to go with. Then I have this engraved Iron Lance +3 that I actually took from Alfred when I stopped using him. And I know I've had people say, oh god, you can't upgrade iron weapons in Maddening, it's not worth it, yada yada yada, but listen. The hit rate on this thing, the fact that we're not losing speed, the fact that it gives good damage, it is a solid workhorse weapon right now. Are we going to take it into the end game? Probably not. But will it get us to the end game? Yes. And that's what counts. Kind of same thing, we have the Fencerlier +2. This doesn't ever really get used unless I'm desperately trying to avoid getting crit by something. We can see it has very good dodge. This is something that I had on Chloe when we were still using her, and again, I just kind of cobbled together some weapons for Zelkov. We'll be refining this as we go. I can see us putting the S-rank lance on him, maybe putting the Celica engrave on that once we have access to her and it, but again, we're just kind of here with options. Then finally, we have a Silver Lance, just generic, unupgraded. I'm planning on upgrading this to have a high damage option, putting a good engrave on it, all that type of stuff. Potentially also turning it into a Brave Lance because of the abilities of Halberdier, which we're going to go over here shortly. Then, of course, we have our bond weapons with Camilla, the Bolt Axe and Lightning. Not really the most useful things. Zelkov, not exactly known for his magical attack, and that's the first problem with having Camilla as his emblem, and one of the reasons why I'm considering switching to Sigurd, as he'll just make better use of the emblem weapons. But for now, it's a good stopgap measure for reasons we'll talk about shortly. The nice thing about Camilla is she is giving us good stats that I'm happy to have on Halberdier Zelkov right now. He's getting +3 speed, obviously very important. We've already talked about with Rosado why speed is so important on Maddening. Enemies are very fast. At the very least, we want to avoid getting doubled, and we would like to be able to double in turn when we have the capability. We're also getting +3 res. Not the most important thing, but being able to just take less damage when we can't avoid getting attacked by a mage is good. And then a very nice +5 HP, which, again, HP on a frontliner, very solid. We want to be beefy. We want to be able to take some hits. HP is going to help us with that. So, pretty happy with these stats overall for Camilla. It could be optimized better, but it's getting the job done. Coming over to skills, we of course have Zelkov's personal skill, Not Quite. If foe initiates combat, inflicts hit -10 on that foe during combat. Pretty happy with this. Again, a frontliner, we're going to be getting attacked a lot on the enemy phase. We'd like to be able to dodge what attacks we can before it comes down to our defenses being able to soak hits. Not Quite. Going to make it a little bit harder for the enemy to hit us. Now, for our inherited skills, this is where things get interesting, and this is where my twists have come into the whole build. First off, we have Lunar Brace. If unit initiates combat with a physical attack, deals extra damage equal to 20% of the foe's defense. I mean, this is just a very good option for any melee character, any physical melee character. And on Maddening especially, where enemies have inflated stats, this just gets better. This is going to be particularly nice when we pair it with Halberdier's pincer attack skill, I believe is what it is called, where if you attack an enemy while you have an ally flanking said enemy, you're guaranteed to follow up. So now we're getting a guaranteed increase of 20% based off of the foe's defense to our damage twice if we have that flank going on. That will go up to 4 times if we're using a brave weapon and as such quadding, which is part of the reason that I was considering turning the Silver Lance into a Brave Lance. And it's part of why we're going with Halberdier in general, because Zelkov has a fairly tanky, fairly dodgy set of stats, which means it won't be as dangerous to throw him into the enemy line, potentially have him getting attacked by more units, just so that he can secure those pincer attacks. So Luna Brace is going to increase our damage overall with such tactics, and I think it will be quite nice. Our second skill here is Lance Agility 2. Grants Avoid plus 15 at a cost of crit minus 10 when using a lance. And this is the skill that's kind of a non-bow with that killer lance. We are losing crit. Obviously kind of counterintuitive if you're using a crit-based weapon. But I'm more worried about Zelkov being able to dodge attacks than I am about him securing crits. Our big damage is going to be coming from those pincer attack follow-ups, not as much from crits. If I have to sacrifice that to make it so we can dodge more on the enemy phase, or just not get countered when we're going in for attacks in the first place, I'm totally fine with that. Then, of course, you can't see it here, but we will be getting pincer attack in about a level and a bit. We'll be getting that at level 5. We are currently at level 3. Once we have that in play, I think this build's really going to pop off. For our emblems, we have our emblem abilities with Camilla. First off, Dragon Vein, and this is one of the benefits of having Camilla here, because as a backup unit, we can create a, I think it's, like a 3x3 square of stone pillars that increase defense and resistance. And I mean, this is just really nice. Again, enemies hit really hard in Maddening. If we can just say, hey, we don't really have anything that we need to attack with Zelkov, we can't get him into a good position, drop a big Dragon Vein, tank up the rest of the team. Totally cool with that. Very solid option. Has immediate effects as opposed to something like Vein of Succor, which won't heal until the start of our next turn. So it's not giving us an immediate effect when we need it. Decisive Strike. If unit initiates combat and lands a critical, deals 5 damage to foe after combat. Just kind of a win more situation here. It's nice when it happens. It could potentially kill an enemy, finish them off. We do have the Killer Lance, so we'll be critting more often than usual. But again, we also have this Lance Agility, so we're losing crit. So again, a little bit of a non-bow. Detoxify, cures poison at start of turn. Nice when it's useful. Can't really build around it. Soar. Grants move plus 2. Unit can cross terrain as if flying. This is the big one. This is the reason that I'm currently using Camilla on Zelkov, because what this allows us to do is maneuver more easily into position to get those pincer attacks. Obviously, move plus 2 helps with that a lot. Having flying, being able to navigate around pits or otherwise innavigable terrain, things that would slow us down, like thickets, stuff like that, or just get around enemy units more easily to be able to get that pincer attack, that's going to be huge. Don't have pincer attack yet, so we haven't been able to use it, but it's going to be very nice. Finally, Dark Inferno. Solid enough ability. Not something that I get too much use out of, because to really make the best use of it, you want to be kind of solo in the enemy group so you can deal a lot of damage, slow them down without hitting your own units with fire. It has its uses, not an end-all be-all winner like some other emblem attacks, but it's solid enough. Now, the reason that I'm considering switching to Sigurd instead of Camilla, two big ones. First of all, Sigurd has a bunch of lances. That's going to be very nice for Zelkov. He even has his own emblem Brave Lance that we'll be able to make great use of with pincer attack. He also increases move and gives us things that allow us to move through enemies, which will allow us to navigate around to get better pincer attacks. Overall, I think Sigurd is going to be the better option here. I think he'll give us better stats. We won't have quite as many not so useful things. We'll have momentum, which again will be very nice with pincer attack. We'll be maneuvering into position. That means we'll be getting extra momentum for extra damage. This, I think, is going to be really nasty. We have to get our hands on Sigurd again, but once we do, I'm looking forward to it. And you better believe we're going to be comparing between Camilla and Sigurd on Zelkov. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about here is Yunaka. I've touched on my dodge tank Yunaka build in Maddening specifically in my first 3 Maddening builds video that I did. But that was very early on in our campaign, and we hadn't really gotten anything that benefited the dodge tank Yunaka build, any of the things that I outlined in my original video talking about the build as a whole. Now that we're further into this Maddening run and we have access to more of the things that we need to make this build tick, we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth. So, what's the goal here? The goal is to use Karn with Yunaka to put down a Dragon Vein of smoke or fog that increases Avoid. This means on command, we can give Yunaka plus 60 Avoid and create a 3x3 square of difficult to navigate terrain to slow enemies down. This is huge. This is insanely strong. And one of the things that was brought up in my video talking about this build originally was that it could be so strong that it would prevent enemies from actually attacking Yunaka, as she would have so much Avoid that the Maddening AI would know it wasn't worth trying to attack her. That has most certainly not been my experience in Maddening thus far. Yunaka is fast. She has good luck. She has good speed. She's getting her extra dodge from the smoke. She is still able to be hit by enemies on Maddening, which really tells you all you need to know about how accurate these enemies are. But that plays to our advantage, because now we're able to apply poison and distract enemies with reckless abandon. To do this, I have given Yunaka a Silver Dagger +2. This is very important, as Yunaka's damage isn't the best, and the damage of daggers isn't the best. So if we actually want to be able to hit enemies on the counterattack to poison them, we need to have the most damage that we can get. As such, we have this Silver Dagger, a little bit of an investment, yes, but we're actually able to push damage through more often than not now, get the poison applications, weaken enemies, make it easier for the rest of our team to deal damage to them on subsequent turns. It's very good. We have Karn for this fog, so of course we have the benefits from Karn as well. Plus 12 HP, plus 4 magic, plus 3 res. Magic, not really super useful. It might wind up coming into play for the Torrential Roar attack. I'm not actually sure what the damage calculation is on that, but it's there. We could maybe potentially try to find some sort of use for it. The nice thing, though, is that HP, so that if we do get hit, we won't just immediately fold to the damage, and the res makes it so that when mages target us, who will otherwise potentially ignore our Avoid bonus, we'll still be able to suck up the hit without too much trouble. Then, of course, we have Yunaka's personal skill, Trained to Kill. When we're in terrain that provides an Avoid bonus, grants crit plus 15. We're going to always be in terrain that provides Avoid because we have our own Avoid that we can put down. So we're getting a nice boost to crit all the time, which is just free damage to throw around. I've inherited speed plus 4. Because one of the issues that I was actually running into is that even though Yunaka is fast, enemies on Maddening are also fast. So she was actually having a harder time than I would have expected being able to double, and we do want her to double. This has helped significantly. There are still enemies that we cannot double as of right now, but it does help. I'm not sure what I want to inherit next. We could potentially go for Speed and Res off of Camilla. We could potentially go for Speed Taker, but we're not attacking that often because we're usually spending our turns putting down smoke. I have to see. If you have suggestions on what you would think would be a good include for Yunaka here in this last slot, let me know. There's, again, going to be plenty of options. I can figure something out as well. But if you know one, that would be good. Drop it in the comments. That'd be great. Then, of course, we have our Dragon Vein. That'll give us that Avoid quality time, so we're able to passively heal allies around us when we do our thing. Draconic Hex, being able to debuff enemies is always nice. Pair-ups that we're not getting chipped away by backup attacks is insanely good. Dreadful Aura, allowing us to just essentially stun lock whole groups of enemies and also inflict minus Avoid on them, so they're easier to hit on the subsequent turn. And then Torrential Roar, so we can do all of that stuff, but on a whole group of enemies, and slow them down by putting down negative terrain. This is just, I mean, it's an awesome build. There's no way to get around that, and it's worth using, even on Maddening. And that's why I wanted to circle back around to it. I'll probably do one final review of this build once we've gone through the entire run, and I've got it fully kitted out. But now that I've had the chance to actually use it in its entirety, we've got Yunaka and Karn online. It's been performing well in Maddening. She's not so dodgy that she avoids getting attacked altogether, which is to our benefit. It felt like it warranted revisiting as a kind of mid-run build discussion. So it's definitely good. If you're on the fence about it, use it. That said, though, that has been 3 more, some weird, some more conventional builds for Maddening. Thank you all so much for watching. I do very much appreciate it. I've been really enjoying doing these videos, and it's been really nice to see that you guys enjoy them as well. They're fun, they're quick, They're interesting, and it sparks a lot of discussion. So thank you for engaging with them, no pun intended. If you do have any insights into any of these builds that I've listed, you have any of your own that you would like to see me try or that you would at least like to suggest, or again, you have any suggestions on skills that I can slot into some of these empty slots, do please let me know in the comments. We're going to wrap this one up here. So thank you all so much for watching. Have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.